The top 1% of all Americans have a net worth of over $11 million. Hey guys, a good measure of where you are right now with your money is your net worth calculation. Now on this video, I'm going to explain to you the actual numbers. What is the actual net worth of someone that's in the lower class, the net worth of somebody in the middle class, the net worth of somebody in the upper class? I'm going to give you those actual figures on this video so you can see where you fit in right now in terms of your net worth. And whether or not you're in the lower class, the middle class, the upper middle class, or maybe even the wealthy class right now. And I'm going to give you some practical things that you can do to move from category to category and sort of go up that ladder in terms of building your net worth. Now, we can talk about income, right? How much you actually earn and make. But a better measure of your actual wealth is your actual net worth. Your income is not really a measure of your actual wealth. It's just a measure of what you earn and what you make on an annual basis. But your net worth tells a much more important story, right? Because there's a lot of people that earn and make a lot of money, have high salaries, but they also spend a lot of money and they don't end up with any wealth at the end of the day, right? Keep in mind, guys, your net worth or your wealth is what you can pass on to generation. You can't pass on your income. So the best measure of wealth is from your net worth. And of course, all of this is relative to your personal financial situation, guys. As I like to say all the time on this channel, personal finance is personal, right? Everybody's a little bit different. Things matter differently to different people. People have different risk tolerance levels. So let's jump into it. What is net worth, right? Net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. What you own minus what you owe. And guys, if you want, do this exercise. If you've never figured your net worth or you did it a long time ago, do this exercise. Put a pause on this video and come back to it in a moment. And when it's paused, get out a piece of paper, any piece of paper, pen, pencil, and then on the left side of that piece of paper, write down your assets. That's things that you own, right? The market value or the value of the things that you actually own. And then on the right side, put the word liabilities at the top and write down your liabilities and how much you owe for each liability. For example, if you own a home or you're buying your home, you put down the market value of that home on the asset side, right? Whatever that market value is right now, put it on the asset side. Then if you have a mortgage on that property, you put down the amount that you owe on the property. So let's say you have a house and it's worth, the market value is $300,000, but you owe $250,000. The $300,000 is going to go on your asset side and the $250,000 is going to go on your liability side. So the point is just do that exercise all the way down with everything you own and everything you owe, and then take your assets and minus your liability and see what you come up with so you can see where you fall, whether it's lower class, middle class, or upper class that I'm going to explain to you. Now, guys, when you do this exercise, don't overestimate your assets, right? And the value of some of your personal items like jewelry, furniture, appliances, tools, right? Those things usually aren't worth very much money. And so don't overestimate those things. Be as accurate as possible and be honest with yourself about these values, right? Trust me, guys, it's easy when you do that exercise to have a negative net worth. I had a negative net worth until I was 30 years old. So I really understand why this can be intimidating for some people. It can be depressing for some people to actually look at their net worth. But listen, you can't change anything unless you face it and try to overcome it. But you got to know that it's out there before you do anything about it, right? So you got to admit to a problem before you can actually change a problem. So you got to do this exercise so that you can figure out where you are right now. But the bottom line is this: whatever your net worth is, don't be discouraged. Don't be disappointed. So let's jump into the numbers, guys. As of 2021, according to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, and the Fed does these surveys every 3 years, so there's another one coming up soon, the overall median net worth for Americans, that's the middle, was $121,700. That's the median. So for this video, guys, I'm going to look at kind of the 5 quintiles of the 20% chunks that make people fall into these 5 categories. The bottom 20% is what we'll call the poverty level. The next 20% up is the lower middle class. Now the middle 20% is the middle class. And then the next highest 20% we'll call the upper middle class. And then the highest 20% of all Americans in terms of net worth, we'll call that the wealthy class, okay? Now the middle class is so big, that's why we break it into 3 20% quintiles, right? the lower middle class, the middle class, and the upper middle class. So starting with the poverty class, that bottom 20% of folks in that poverty class have a net worth of around $6,030. If you find yourself around $6,000 and below, that's considered poverty in terms of net worth. Now again, if you find yourself in that category, don't be discouraged. I've been there. Don't be down on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. We've all made decisions with our money that have been mistakes in the past, right? But just remember, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money that still don't have a very high net worth. If you're at this level in terms of net worth, you need to be making sure that you're saving up for emergencies, because you don't want an emergency to completely wipe you out and take you out of the whole ball game, right? So make sure you're saving money or somewhere where you can get to it immediately, maybe a high yield savings account. The other thing you want to think about if you're in this group is what can you do to build your skills up to have higher paying skills so that you don't always stay around this level, right? You want to ultimately boost your income, and that's going to require obtaining some higher paying skills. What do you have to do to increase your income? Because that's going to help you get out of this lower 20%. And also pay down some debt, some bad debt on things that are depreciating and going down in value. Because the money you're putting towards debt is robbing you of the money that you could be using to increase your net worth, because ultimately you want to grow your assets. Now let's move to the second quintile, which is the lower middle class, which is the next 20% up. Now that next 20% up has a net worth of around $43,760. Now if your net worth is around that $43,000 mark, then you've moved from the lower class up to the next 20% quintile, and that is the lower middle class. Now, if you fall in this group, right on. You're beginning to see the possibilities of growing your net worth. But the thing is, you don't want to get stuck there, right? There's levels to this thing, right? So you want to move up out of that at some point. And you may be just a few choices away from actually moving up in terms of to the next 20% quintile. Remember, if your net worth is around $43,000, you've got to continue to live below your means so you can build up that cushion between your income every month and your expenses every month, because that cushion is what you're going to use to actually increase your emergency fund. You're going to use it to pay down debt on things that are depreciating. You're going to use it to actually invest. So if you're in this group, be careful being tempted to spend more money on things. Be careful trying to look a certain way so that you can actually display some type of level of wealth. You're trying to get there. And while you're trying to get there, guys, and move up to the next 20% quintile, you have to purposely be intentional about delaying gratification, staying disciplined with your money, continue to make good decisions with your money. Now, the next level up, the next 20% quintile, is the middle class. Now, folks that are smack dab in the middle of the middle class have a net worth of $104,700. Now, if this is you and you're in this range, you're starting to see some real light at the end of the tunnel on your financial journey. And you're probably starting to really see where good financial decisions ultimately pay off in terms of your net worth. Now, the typical person, they usually cross this $100,000 threshold for net worth in their early 40s. But that doesn't mean that if you're in your 20s, you can't get there. It doesn't mean that if you're in your 50s, there's something wrong with you. It just means typically this happens to most folks in their early 40s. Because it takes some time to build this up, right? Now, this is a big deal. When your net worth gets over $100,000, it's a big deal. It means that you've been super duper focused and intentional. It means that $500,000 net worth mark is not far off. And the $1 million net worth is not far off. So there's a great deal of hope when you can have $100,000 net worth. Remember to continue to be intentional with your money. Continue at this level to focus on your net worth. But be careful when you become in that middle class range, right? Because at that point, you don't want to be following the Joneses. So-and-so down the street got a brand new car. Now you have to go out and buy a brand new car. So-and-so is taking their family on this vacation. So now you got to take your family on that vacation. Be careful not to try to keep up with the Joneses. Continue to live below your means. Now, again, if this is you, you're at that level where you can begin to see that this progress is paying off. But you got to be careful not to overspend. You're going to be making more money at this point. You have to be sure that you're not at the point where you want to actually spend a whole lot more money. And that's very difficult for a lot of folks when they say, hey, I have $100,000 net worth. People begin to say, you know what? I make more. I'm going to spend more. But you want to try to keep your expenses expenses low and continue to live below your means. Because this is where a lot of people get stuck. They get stuck right in the middle of the middle class. Because a lot of people have moved their way up from the lower class to the lower middle class to the middle class. Because by this time, a lot of people are saying, hey, I've worked hard 20 years. I deserve XYZ. I've worked so hard. I deserve. And it's cool. You may deserve it. Totally understand it because you've worked hard with your money. But just be careful not to overdo it because there's another level to this thing. Just stay diligent and stay intentional. Now, the next 20% quintile above that is the upper middle class. Now, the upper middle class has a net worth of $201,800. So if you figured your net worth anywhere between $43,000 up to this $200,000, then that's roughly all considered middle class. But if you can get a net worth that's over $201,000, then you've now moved into what's considered the upper middle class. In this category, guys, you've been disciplined as an investor. You've been very, very diligent about saving money, about making good decisions with money along the way for many, many years. And you've probably delayed some gratification along that route. If this is you, keep going. Keep doing what you're doing because what it takes to get from $200,000 to $1 million net worth and more is exactly what you've been doing. Now, the fifth 20% quintile at the top there is what's called the wealthy, right? Now, the top 20% of Americans have a net worth of $608,900. If you did this exercise and you figured your net worth was at that $600,000 and up mark, then you're now in what's considered to be the top 20% in terms of net worth of all Americans. This means that 80% of everybody out there in America has a lower net worth than you have. Now, if that's you, that means you're on the fast track to being a millionaire or to being a multimillionaire. So keep doing what you're doing. So that's our 5 quintiles of lower class, lower middle class, upper middle class, and upper class. But to finish this out so you guys know, the top 10% of Americans have a net worth of over $900,000. The top 5% of Americans have a net worth of over $1.1 million. The top 2% of all Americans have a net worth of $2.5 million. And the top 1% of all Americans have a net worth of over $11 million. So that kind of gives you a feel. You might have done this exercise with me earlier, guys, and you might have said, hey, wait, I have a net worth of $2.5 million. Well, if that's you, then you're in the top 2% of everybody in America. But the key is this, guys. Remember, as you increase your net worth, what you're doing is decreasing your stress level and increasing a peace of mind about your level of wealth. And again, net worth is something that can be passed along from generation to generation. Income can't. But all of this takes time and it takes you being focused. It's not easy, but it's doable. According to 2 of the largest surveys of millionaires in America, the average millionaire or person with $1 million net worth doesn't reach that level of wealth until they get to be 57 years old. So again, for most of us, this stuff takes time. And yes, there are some regional differences, right? The averages are different between Alabama and California, or between Oregon and Mississippi, right? And there's some racial differences, right? If you're white, if you're black, if you're Asian, if you're Hispanic, there's differences in these figures, as well as gender, right? Men versus women. So there's some differences. So I hope that helps you guys. I want you to remember though, personal finance is personal. And don't be upset, mad, depressed, angry, or beat yourself up over what your current net worth situation is. Just remember, you can change it. So I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you got anything out of the video, do me a favor, smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber, and share the video with someone who you think could use it. And check out a few of these other videos I'm going to put right here for more wealth building strategies and money management tools and techniques. Hey, the best person to take care of the old you is the young you. Do me a favor, guys. Take care of yourself and always take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.